Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of Goths Do a Podcast.
Today we will be talking about how we have been or not been dealing with the pandemic and lockdown.
It is a massive question, and we did digress at certain parts, and we talked about everything to do with COVID-19.
So the Goths that will be joining you today for this conversation are Emily, Crystal, Catherine, and myself, Bella.
It is our first ever podcast, so sorry for any sound issues, and please be kind. We are still learning.
And as always, practice makes perfect, so we hope you enjoy.
Okay, hi, my name's Catherine, and if you turn off the lights and say, "I'm feeling sad," into the mirror 3 times, I appear behind you and give you a hug.
Hi, my name's Bella. I am a nurse. I like to paint, read, and drink wine.
Hi, my name's Emily. I work in television and I spend my spare time streaming on Twitch and looking after my menagerie of reps.
Hiya, my name is Crystal. I'm a cat, plant and exotic pet mum who works in IT, and I like warm hugs. And this is how have you been or not been dealing with the pandemic? So, guys.
This is a large question, I feel like everyone in the world, let alone our country.
Yeah, it's definitely a worldwide thing. It's not just affecting us.
Yeah, I just feel like because England's not coped as well as it possibly could have, it just feels like it's ongoing for us.
For those of you who've been living under a rock, we are in the middle of a teeny-weeny pandemic due to a virus called COVID-19. Living in the UK, we're dealing with this fairly freaking badly. A not insignificant infection rate compared to the rest of the world. I feel
like that is probably an understatement of the century, not dealing with it pretty well. But we're in lockdown 3 right now, which hasn't destroyed any plans, I swear.
It's also particularly fun if you actually have COVID.
Yes. Do you want to lead with that?
Because it is not fun.
No, it is not fun. I was going to say that's from someone who had a cough for 3 days. I don't think I can really count mine as COVID, but apparently it was.
I was, obviously my mum is in another country now. And she was complaining yesterday that because she's having a house set up, they haven't been able to go out for dinner and drinks in 2 weeks. And I was like, you're really going to complain to me? Me, who's been on the sofa for 3 weeks with COVID. Thank you very much. We can't even go out for meals or for drinks.
Yeah, even if you wouldn't be able to go out anywhere because we're in lockdown.
No.
And then you can't physically get off the sofa because you have no energy left because you've walked to the sofa.
No. I can't even remember the last time we went to a pub.
What's a pub? Yeah. I don't remember those.
I'm going to say it was probably August, maybe September.
Yeah, it probably was.
The vaccine is here. Hopefully, freedom is on the horizon if we ever get vaccinated properly.
Oh, don't say that.
Okay, for people who don't know, the UK is currently rolling out vaccinations to the most vulnerable, and have decided that instead of giving people the 2 doses within the 3-week time frame, they're just going to give everybody the first dose, and we can wait 3 months for the second one.
It's not quite like that. So I had my first dose because I'm an NHS worker, and we've had an email from powers that be where I work saying that the government has recommended cancelling all second doses because when we booked our first dose, they made us book our second dose just so that everyone would already have an appointment. But they've looked at the evidence from the government and the vaccination program, people who made the vaccination, and apparently the evidence is that you will still have 90% coverage if you get it within 3 months. But it may not take 3 months, if that makes sense. Because yeah, so it's just they're saying you have up to 12 weeks to have your second dose, but they're hoping they get everybody else done before then. But 12 weeks is your maximum gap, and it's so that we can get all of the first 4 groups with at least 1 dose of the vaccine because it gives you 50% coverage if you only have 1 dose. Obviously, we want 2, but 1's better than none.
Yeah, 1 is better. 1 is better than none. That's absolutely right.
So, because when they cancelled my second dose, I did do some reading because I was like, really? I
didn't realise they cancelled your second dose.
Yeah, they've cancelled everyone's second dose, but hopefully they'll be rebooking them soon once they've got the whole of our trust and everybody else we have to vaccinated for their first dose. So But yeah, I think going back to coping or not coping with the lockdown, from my point of view, when we first went in lockdown last March, I didn't notice much of a difference because obviously I was still going out physically to work, and it was busier than it should have been for March, but it wasn't much different to what we were dealing with between like January and February last year, so it hadn't really changed that much. But I know for people like you three, it changed quite a lot, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I started working from home mid-end March, and it's now and that was 2020. It's now mid January 2021, and I have not been in the office, not even to pick anything up. I have not been in the office.
No, me neither. It's been 10 months.
Yeah, I left. They sent us home from work a little bit early because I work somewhere where there's like a really high footfall of people coming from all over the place. And they said, it's really not safe for you guys to be in here, so go work from home until we know anything. We expected it to be 3 weeks. It's been ever so slightly longer than that.
Yeah, I was laughed at for taking my plants. I had a cactus and a couple of other bits on my desk, and when I was grabbing them, everyone's like, why bother? We're going to be back in like a couple of weeks' time. They're cactuses, they can last till then. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to take them just in case. And I'm so glad I did, because they would definitely be dead by now.
God, I'm just wondering, like, sometimes I sit and think, like, did I leave anything in my desk? Am I going to go back and, like, there's something growing because I forgot to chuck all my food?
Well, like, I know people who left food in their locker. And they were just like, oh, we're not going back for a while.
The Alberts they are currently growing in their locker are going to be able to move by themselves by the time they go back, for sure.
That's going to be the next pandemic. That's going to be like just the live food coming and punishing us all for leaving.
All the office workers' lunches that have just been brewing for 10 months.
I don't even want to open my lunchbox if I've forgotten about it for 2 days, let alone 10 months.
I don't know about you guys. It was weird transitioning for me to transition into working from home. Like, weird in that it wasn't weird. I found out that I could do everything that I did over the internet. It was just strange doing it from my bedroom. I was like, I'm having to do these appointments and these meetings, and it feels really intrusive that these people can see into my house. I don't want them in my house. You're work people. I don't want you to see where I live.
Yeah, I've noticed there's a lot of people who, especially on Zoom meetings, if we or Teams or whatever you end up using, a lot of people would use the fake backgrounds, but they would use a fake background which looked like a living room, but you can tell it wasn't a living room because there's that green screen sort of blur around them, or their headset disappears. And I just thought that was absolutely fascinating, because I don't mind, but then again, I let people into my living room, a few times a week, so that never really occurred to me as being a problem, actually.
Yeah, I think where before the pandemic I was working from home 2 days a week anyway, it was kind of easy to adjust, but it used to be that if you were working from home, people would very much leave you alone on the days you were working from home. Whereas now it's like you have to be ready to maybe have a impromptu Zoom video call.
Yeah, you need to constantly be on it.
Yeah.
It's like I've got some study days that have been rebooked from last year because everything got cancelled at work so that we could concentrate on the problem at hand. And some of them are like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or however they're going to do it when it comes around to it. And it's like, I don't think I have a space in my flat that I would deem appropriate enough to have a proper video chat with anyone. Okay, there's going to be a group of about 10 of us on the call, but it's still like I've got to find a space where it doesn't look like I just live in squalor or they're not paying me too much.
Yeah, it's been very weird, seeing into your managers' rooms and seeing their pets and seeing their family. It definitely takes a while to adjust to.
Yeah, honestly, the amount of meetings I've had with small children.
Yeah.
I always feel so sorry for people who have to do meetings with kids. It's like, you deserve a pay rise.
I can barely do it with cats. As soon as I start talking, my cats just come over and be like, "While you're talking, you must be talking to me." And that's hard enough. I couldn't imagine, with children there who see, mama or dad's at home. They're here to play with me, and it's like the weekend. except it's
Yeah,
not.
it's like my partner at the moment obviously is doing live teaching from wherever school tells him to be, and our cat has definitely taken a starring role in some sessions. Because she does that when he plays video games. So she's like, "Oh, he's home. He must be playing video games. I can walk across this keyboard. It's fine."
It's time for me. No, my cat does that. She gets really moody if I don't pay her attention. So I'm talking to my students, or I'm talking to the people I'm talking to, and you just see this paw enter the frame, claws out. She's trying to like bat me, and I lose all professional authority because I've just been like
upstage.
My cat has just asserted dominance. Like, I can't control the cat. Why should they listen to me?
There is a reason I am in a separate room with 2 doors between us.
Yeah, I'm actually quite lucky at the moment.
Does
Both
not
my
respect
cats are they're asleep at the moment. I can just see them through the gap here. But yeah, both my cats are quite settled at the moment. Otherwise, you'll start hearing that ringing in the background. That means that they've come to play.
Yeah.
So as the lockdown pandemic in March went on, it took I think much longer for people still actually going into work, because I started to notice about probably 6 to 8 weeks into lockdown that stuff was starting to get a bit more edgy and stuff, because we couldn't go let off steam how we would normally. Because when we did that first lockdown, for the first like 4 to 6 weeks, we weren't even allowed to really go outside and exercise.
Yeah.
It was like literally you stay at home.
Yeah, there was no one outside.
Yeah, where I live, I can see into a public car park, and I use that to judge by how much the public are paying attention to lockdown. Because there's no reason to park there unless unless it's for fun, really. So I can tell at the moment it's been taken a little bit more seriously, because I've not seen the car park full. And I have to say, it was the eeriest thing. That first day I worked from home, that car park was empty. I had never seen that car park empty. Even in the middle of the night, that car park is never empty. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, there's a car in there. But
just yell at them out the window, go home!
It was very interesting watching, like, as lockdown progressed, more and more cars started appearing, which for me meant that, you know, it was kind of obvious that people were going, well, you know, it's been a while now. I'm just gonna, you know, go out just this once, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like, it's been forever. I've not caught it yet. I'm probably like, I can push the boundaries a little bit.
You haven't caught it yet because you've been inside.
Yeah. It's like, maybe there's a correlation to the fact you haven't been out in 6 months and you haven't got COVID.
Yeah.
Maybe stay indoors.
I know it's been really hard for everyone, because I think with friends that don't go to an office or a workplace regularly, they were starting to get antsy probably about week 4 instead of week 6, 8, because they hadn't seen anyone apart from whoever they live with, and you're not necessarily friends with who you live with. And like we moved partway through that first lockdown.
Oh, God.
And it was very different, because we were with my parents for like the first couple of weeks, and then we finally sorted everything out and moved, and then we were just the 2 of us, but then I wasn't here half the time, so it gave us still that space, whereas I know a lot of couples didn't get that space because they couldn't have that space.
Yeah. Speaking of not being friends with who you live with, so for those who don't know, which is probably everybody, because this is the first episode. So in the first from the first lockdown, I lived with my husband, who was furloughed fairly quickly. I was working from home. I used to go to uni a couple of nights a week. I had to stop with that because I'm not very good at online learning. We stopped going out. And we had just moved into our own flat before lockdown happened. It's because we were living with friends. And it was great. We thought, well, we're going to spend all this time together. We don't have to worry about anybody else upsetting them or them having anxiety about us breaking the rules. We did not last 2 months before we broke up. My marriage ended because we just could not be alone with each other for that amount of time. I think if somebody explained it to me, is that lockdown just sped everything up. Couples who were kind of on the precipice of moving in decided to move in and just spend that lockdown together. Couples who were going to break up broke up a lot quicker because it forced you to sit down. And so I like to think that I have completed that level of my life. Like, it takes people years to get to a point where they dislike each other enough to do a divorce. I did it like much quicker. And
I'm going to take that achievement with me to the grave. I just completed it, mate. What do you want me to do? Replay the game? Completed it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get
done with
divorced.
that.
As someone who also went through a breakup in the first lockdown,
Whoop-whoop.
not married, but at least you didn't buy a house.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like having to stay home and just reflect on your life was very difficult for a lot of people. I think especially when you're the kind of couple that goes out all of the time and is always busy and always like doing activities, when you're actually like at home and you can't do anything, it shines light on a lot of things that you might not necessarily have noticed for like years down the line.
Absolutely. It just sped everything up.
Mm.
Like it forced us to really sit down and reflect on things, which in the grand scheme of things is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, better to do it now than 10 years later when there's a mortgage and kids involved.
Yeah, it's really good in the sense like it forces you to take stock of things, to reflect on your life. And I mean, that's one of the good things that I found through lockdown. I didn't go through a breakup, but my self-discovery adventure, I guess, has I wouldn't have really had the I guess time and space to do that if I wasn't working from home, and I didn't suddenly, I wasn't allowed to see my friends, and I wasn't allowed to, I guess, ignore things and avoid things, because my flat was deep cleaned by about week 2. And I was like, shit, what do I do now?
I think that's why, especially for healthcare workers, I think less in like ITU and stuff, but where I work in A&E, we had a really strange period as we came down the other side of the peak, where people were still scared to come to hospital, people were still abiding by lockdown rules. So there was no like anyone getting into accidents or anything. So we were strangely like in the middle of like April, May time, quiet. And we never use the Q word in A&E. That's how you invite like 6 traumas to come in at once. But that it was like, so it gave us a very long time to try to reflect or talk to each other and support each other. And now that we're going through wave 2, lockdown 3, people aren't abiding by the rules as much because we're still getting all those people that's had accidents and this, that, and the other. Some of them do need to be there because they're legit like chest pains and stuff and they're having a heart attack.
Yeah, fair.
I do recommend coming to A&E if that's happening. But
maybe.
But we're not getting any of that downtime, and the second wave peak is lasting a lot longer. We had probably about 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks of the peak last time. We were still getting COVID patients after that, but there were a lot less. There was a lot fewer of them. Whereas now it's stretching out, and I think people are struggling more, at least within healthcare, and I think even in the general public, because you're stuck by yourself yet again with people that if you haven't been able to change your house situation because we've been in lockdown 3 times and COVID and this, that, and the other, that you're stuck with people that you don't want to be stuck with. And it's been very hard for a lot of people. We're not having that time to be settled or reflect on what's going on.
There's this endless barrage of COVID-19.
Well, yeah, there was that whole thing at the beginning of lockdown where everyone's like, oh yeah, you've got all this time to learn new hobbies and do all these things.
I hate those
just
people.
Like, out of all of my friends, I think very few of us ended up furloughed or had job reductions. My job got much busier, and other people's job got much busier because suddenly you were now contactable all the time. You couldn't take a lunch break because people are still trying to call you and contact you.
And you're at home.
Yeah,
they know you're
exactly. There. So, I stopped having lunch breaks. I ended up working later and later and later. And it's gotten to the point now where I've actually had to sort of contact my manager and be like, this needs to stop. I wouldn't do this in the office, so why am I doing it now?
Yeah, and that's completely understandable.
There's this whole mindset change on people working from home and working in the office, and it's very hard for you to think, would I do this if I was working in the office? It's just, I need this done, I'm just going to do it.
I had one dude I work with message me on WhatsApp at like 7:30 in the morning. I was like, what is wrong with you? I mean, he didn't mean anything by it, but I was like, the invasion of work onto my like phone in like my own number rather than just my email and my work number has been strange.
Yeah.
Conversely, like I found in the first wave, and actually a bit of this wave, I actually started finishing sooner. because nobody was interrupting me during the day, so I could just get all my stuff done and finish. I think me and you are probably polar opposites, Crystal, because like you're quite diligent and like you will work the extra hours. It's like once my work day is done, it's done.
I'm out of here.
That's
don't
the thing
contact
is,
me.
though,
Like I will not pick up.
Yeah, the problem is that ended up in severe burnout, and you know, this wouldn't have happened if I was working in the office, because it would have got to 5 o'clock, I'd have shut my laptop and I'd have walked out the door. What's instead happening is I'm getting a call at 4:59, and it's, oh, can you just do this for me real quick? And I'm like, right, okay, fine. I'll just, yeah, it's a 5-second job. But between having the conversation, actually doing the job, and then finishing up what I was doing, it's now 5:30, and I'm still online. And you can see I'm still online because of like, we use Microsoft Teams. You can't turn off really like being online. And so people will see I'm online, and I start getting Teams messages. You know, people going, oh, yeah, are you still working? Can you just do this for me? And it's very hard for me personally to say no. It's something I am working on.
If you put something in your calendar, like block out an afternoon, if someone tries to message you, it comes out with the message that you're out of office.
Because I block out my calendar, and I'm just, you know, no. That's it. My calendar is just no. But people will just be like, oh, you know, I know you're really busy, but can you just... And the thing is, it also depends on your office culture. Because when we were in the office, we were expected to answer our emails and to answer the phone. And now we're working from home, we're also expected to answer our emails and answer the phone. But people are calling more and people are emailing more. That's not been taken into consideration. And so for a lot of times, you know, there has to be a shift in work culture for working from home. And, you know, I can't speak for every company. You know, I know just not all of them had that or have that. So
yeah, I think also it comes down from the manager. So if your manager is going, you should have protected time for, say, your lunch break or whatever it is, then that is more than what hits the floor. Because where I'm working at the minute, because they know we're so busy and we're always like looking for staff because it's so extra busy than it is, and we've technically got extra areas to staff and stuff like that, that our manager is actually staying past her point of leaving to make sure people are getting breaks. She's opting out of meetings so that she can cover lunch breaks. So it's trying to enforce to her staff that it's important that you take your breaks, because most nurses will know that you are very notorious for not taking breaks. But with the way things are at the moment, staff are going to burn out with taking their breaks. So you not taking your breaks is not helping anyone.
Like chugging an energy drink is not a break, you guys.
It's not.
I mean, that's something I was trying to explain to a couple of people is because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you know, I've got all evening and you know, I'm relaxing then, and I have to go, are you relaxing or are you recovering?
Yeah.
They're completely different things, because if you've just done a 12-hour work day, when you get home, you're not relaxing, you are recovering. And once you finish recovering, then you can relax, and that's how you end up with burnout, because you don't give yourself a chance to recover and then relax.
Relaxing and recovery. What are we doing? So we get to the end of our 12-hour days. How have you guys been kind of trying to recoup from the stress of it all?
So during the first wave, I wasn't doing an awful lot. I was doing what I would do beforehand, but obviously COVID-19, in any sense of the word for any person, is a completely different kettle of fish to normal life. It's even different to the winter pressures we feel in the hospital. So I was coming home, I was sleeping, I was probably buying food, because who makes food? And then, just chilling out and watching TV, but that wasn't actually helping me process anything. So obviously over the summer and things built up and anxiety came back, was born again. So since beginning of December, I've been trying to journal, which I'm really rubbish at doing every day, but I've been trying. And then actually like doing things that I enjoy, because that's one way of recovering, and then writing it down and trying to talk to people more, which is probably why people like Crystal are like on my speed dial.
Yeah, I have to say, this lockdown is the most I've spoken to my friends like in a very long time. I thought, you know, in first lockdown, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm talking to my friends a lot more because, you know, we've got our group chats, we're doing Discord calls.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until several weeks into the first lockdown, I'm sat on my sofa with my life-size skeleton, spooning it. And I'm like, I need to see someone. I need some human contact because I live alone. It's just me and my cats, and my snake, you know. And as much as I love my pets, they don't make up for human contact. And so one of the big things I'm doing this lockdown is, yes, I'm making sure I've got virtual contact, but thanks to the bubble system, I'm making sure I've got human contact as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, wherever we can, I'm trying to make sure, you know, like, you know, we've been going for walks. So we're getting sunlight, we're getting nature, and I'm getting human contact. That's my main focus.
I consider myself like an introverted extrovert, right? So like when I'm out, I'm out and like I'll be chatty and have a great time, but I very much like spending time by myself at home and like living, like going from living with someone to living alone in lockdown. You actually kind of realize that you really do need to see people. Like I thought it'd be fine. I was like, I'm just gonna sit and watch TV, play some games,
Exactly the
just
same,
WhatsApp people. Like it's like my dream. Like I can just message people and I don't have to go outside. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, I need to see someone. This is really bad.
It's like my partner, you all know him.
We're vaguely aware.
He's like, nothing's changed for me, blah, blah, blah. I'll be fine if we stay in lockdown forever. I was like, yeah, but you live with me. So even though nothing's changed for him because he spends a lot of time playing games and watching TV on his computer, it's like if I wasn't there, say, because in the first wave, the charity had got some donations from some hotels and we're allowed to stay in hotels near the hospital. If I had actually moved into one like some people did for 3 months to try and protect the family they lived with, I think he would have gone stir crazy.
Yeah.
He would have been driving one of you guys nuts because no matter what he says, we all need human contact, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's hard. Like the first lockdown, I made bread. I went on like long walks. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be like super, super productive. And it wasn't until like the second lockdown. Actually, I don't want to do any of those things. I'm quite happy just sitting watching TV and occasionally going for a walk with someone. And I think like that like pressure of like needing to be productive in the first lockdown and like just everything on social media with people being like, oh look, I made a cake, I made sourdough bread, I can speak German. Like it was so much pressure to like be productive and still like show this like positive side of yourself on social media, which is so silly. Like you're in a pandemic. So it's been nice to actually look at my life and be like, what do I actually like doing? Like,
what do I actually want to do?
Yeah.
It's been fun watching you guys with your streaming. Like I do not get video games. I think I played one in my life, and like I played Sims. That's so it's been fun watching that stuff. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. My biggest hobby in lockdown has been drinking and then trying to curb the drinking because there was nothing else to do.
You know what?
We treat it every day like Christmas.
That's fine.
Like, let's get some more wine, and then you throw out your bottles at the end of the week, and it's like, oh my goodness gracious me.
At least you're recycling.
Oh my god, yeah, every time I took down my recycling, because obviously I'm not leaving my flat, so it kind of builds up for the week or whatever, or maybe a couple of weeks, and I'm taking all my rubbish and recycling down. There's just a clang, clang, clang every step, and I'm like, I really hope my neighbours can't hear me or see me. Instead of recycling,
Shameful
bottle.
I got to the point where I went to the where if I popped into the shop, the guy behind the counter reached behind him for the bottles that I usually got.
Oh no!
Like, yeah, that's it. That is the wake up call I need in my life.
Oh my goodness!
I'm fully prepared for a Deliveroo driver to say, Crystal, welcome back. You know, I'm waiting for that to happen for the sheer amount of deliveries I've bought. Because I mean, I don't have a lot of health anxiety, but you know, I don't really want to go outside if I don't have to. So I've been relying so much on Deliveroo. It's just been insane. I'm getting my alcohol delivered. I'm getting my donuts delivered. You know, and then some other things like some toilet roll. You know, the
essential.
essentials. Honestly, that's also not helped. Is like, I'm not even going to the shop. I'm getting
the anxiety
everything
is real.
delivered. So much takeout, and then I'm paying delivery on things that would be much cheaper even if I just went to the corner shop. When I saw my bank statement, I was like, oh,
just gently
close
walk
that.
over your
Just
Monzo.
close that.
Yeah, don't worry about that. But like, I think in terms of like bringing it back to Twitch, like I moved house the day lockdown started. So I moved house. Was it the end of March? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, it's
you
been a
moved
while.
a little while after my birthday, and then lockdown started on the Monday.
Yeah. So I moved the end of March, and then I started streaming in April because I was bored of making bread. And like that has been the only constant for the whole year. And it's been so nice, like especially like moving out and like spending a lot of time alone by myself, but like also having other people to talk to online. Like that has been so good for my mental health. I think it must be so hard to like be by yourself and not have anyone to talk to.
Yeah, I actually started monitoring. So I use a sleep cycle app to just monitor my sleep, and I actually started monitoring how much social activity I got, whether it was virtual socialization, phone calls, texting, or actually meeting someone face to face. And again, that's how I really took stock of how much socializing I'm doing, and realizing how much better my mood is. Even if I'm, as you said, like I did the exact same thing in April. I started streaming, if only just to reach out to more people. I was going to be playing video games anyway. I might as well stream it.
Yeah.
And I've refound old friends. I've made new friends, and honestly, I don't know if I would have been able to get this far without that support and without that that human contact. Again, it comes back down, especially for me, for human contact.
I think it's nice also when you find people you feel like you can talk to about like your mental health and stuff, because I know like our little group of friends, we all have really good relationships with each other, and we can talk about our many different breakdowns that are happening. We try to take it in turns. and it's like at work I found a few work friends that I feel like I can talk about frustrations with work, and especially at the moment where it's all a little bit up in the air and we don't know when it's going to end, it's nice having those people be them people that you know in real life, or people that you've met online that you can talk to about those things. Like one of the girls that I work with has shown me a great Instagram page with lots of nursing memes, and they keep making me laugh out loud. And then I realised I can't really send them to any of you because it wouldn't be funny for you.
We'll send the obligatory cry laughing face.
Yeah. I've sent a couple to Nikki, which is just fine.
But I mean, that's an excellent point, because like obviously with Twitch, the communities and people who I'm talking to, we already have one thing in common, which is we like the game that I'm playing. I like it because I'm playing it, you like it because you're watching me play it, and therefore you can build the relationship off of that. Because a lot of people say, how do you make friends? You have to have one thing in common. That Twitch is actually a really good thing for that.
I would agree with that. It feels just like hanging out with friends. And like especially at a time where like I'm at home by myself, no one's gonna see me. Like if I wasn't streaming, I wouldn't be getting dressed. I wouldn't be doing anything. I'd just be sat on the sofa.
How have people found this lockdown, so lockdown 3, which started on Boxing Day, to the other ones? Because I found that people aren't social distancing anymore. Like I even had it in the shop today. There was a lady with a trolley, so her social distancing should have been real easy. Stand behind the trolley. But she was at the side of her trolley, like right behind me. And it's like, even though obviously when I go into work, I potentially come in contact with COVID all of the time, but it's a different situation, and people seem to be more careful because we're in a hospital. Whereas in the supermarket, she was just like right behind me. I'm like, mate, you don't know where I've been. I don't know where you've been. Why are you so close?
I literally have COVID. And I went like, I don't have a temperature, and it's been like, touch wood, I'm fine. It's been like 16 days. So I'm like not like contagious anymore. So I'm allowed out. But like I went to the supermarket the other day, and there's just like old people like pushing you out the way to like get to the shelf to get what they want because they can't wait. And like people just like pushing past you. Like when we were like leaving the supermarket, there's a guy who was coming in who didn't have a mask, and he asked them if they had masks that he could use, and they sold them in the supermarket. but they were like, no, we can't give you one, but just go in anyway, it's fine. And I was like, I'm literally like stood there like physically coughing into my mask, trying to avoid everyone, and people just don't, like, they're not phased. They're like, I have a mask on, so it's totally fine.
Yeah, so I mean, I love my nature walks. I always do my nature walks, but at the beginning, very first lockdown, I'd go out on my nature walk, and people would run screaming to the other side of the road whenever I came, along. And I don't think it's because of how I looked, for once.
Just run.
And that's. I almost enjoyed walking even more because people were avoiding me. There's no that awkward, like, trying to get past each other on the path. People were just, they're keeping everyone at arm's length. I had to stop going for my usual walks because people stopped caring. There would be groups of people stood on the pavement chatting to each other, no masks, no social distancing, forcing anyone walking past to either walk through them or walk around them.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't deal with that anymore. Like, touch wood, so far, I've had zero symptoms of anything. But, there's been so many times where I take bloody, sanitizer with me everywhere I go. And there's been times where every time I walk past someone, I'm lathering up and I'm kind of almost rubbing it on my face and everything as well. I just don't like
just take a bath in it.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone watches It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there's that episode where Frank just is obsessed with being pure. That's what we need to do. We need to get on the floor, just roll around in our pure.
I mean, that's the thing, is I've always had a bit of a health anxiety, which, Bella knows very, very well as the
You're not dying.
Nurse. Anytime my chest twinges, I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. And 2 minutes later, she goes, you're still alive. You're not having a heart attack. You're fine. But it's definitely compounded. Like this whole sort of pandemic is definitely.
It's like, so we're not entirely sure who brought COVID home to my parents. It could have been me. It could have been Dad. It could have been anyone. Because there was 3 key workers in our house plus Dad went to go see Nan before she went to the hospital to find out she had COVID. But we got it, and you could tell that Mum was more anxious than she was letting on, because as soon as Dad started showing symptoms, because I had a mild cough, as I said, my COVID was better than any cold I've ever had. Usually I'm coughing for weeks with a cold.
So lucky.
And I feel like death with a cold. I literally had a mild cough for 3 days. And my sister only lost her sense of taste. She only had lost her sense of taste and smell.
I hate all of you.
For a day. Dad, on the other hand, was flat.
Other people feel like they've been hit by a bus.
Yeah, I've never been that ill before in my life.
Yeah,
ever.
Dad felt like he had been hit by a bus. He falls asleep to the TV all of the time, but he literally said he would slept something on Netflix to watch and would be asleep before the title page finished.
Yeah.
Because of how tired he was. But Mum started, you could tell she was really anxious about all of it, because she started coming down the stairs with an old sock and basically bleach and water in a spray bottle and cleaning all of the light switches, all of the door handles.
Oh.
And she wasn't letting on, but she has really bad asthma. So it's, to her, if she got it, that would be a hospital trip. Because she actually found her asthma as a great tool in the first wave, but obviously nobody cares anymore. She'll be walking the dog and she'll have a mild asthma cough, and everyone will run to the other side of the park.
I mean, that's good.
Great thing for social distancing. Just cough at them and watch them run.
Honestly, it doesn't work that much anymore.
No one cares.
I'm coughing all the time and people just aren't phased.
Lord.
But I think, like, in the first lockdown, people were really scared.
Yeah.
And, like, they didn't know what it was. And, all you'd seen on the news was, like, stuff in other countries. And people were super scared and taking it really seriously. Like, when you could finally go out for, like, your, 15 minutes exercise a day in the first lockdown, you barely saw anyone. Yeah. And if you did, they would literally cross to the other side of the road to, like, stay away from you. Whereas now, like, people don't care. I think with the whole, like 1/3 of people won't even have symptoms. People are just like, oh, it's fine, it'll be fine.
Oh, there's that
and they
awful
just
thing.
don't care.
Yeah, there's that awful thing where people are like, oh, I'm within the young adult age bracket, whatever it is. That means even if I get it, it's going to be fine. It'll be super mild. It's only the old people who get ill.
Yeah.
And it's only people who have immune systems and underlying diseases.
Fuck those
That's
guys.
not me.
Fuck
I don't
those guys,
care.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I've got a friend who I actually met via Twitch. She was my first because we didn't realise Bella had it at the time, but she was my first sort of experience with someone with COVID that I knew.
Yeah.
And hers was, very touch and go. The doctors turn around saying, "Have you got all your affairs in order?" type thing.
Oh,
and she's our age. She's
late 20s.
Yeah. She's about our age and everything. No underlying issues or anything like that. And it was just, I think, if anything, for me, that made it very real, and also made me even more paranoid.
Yeah.
Because I knew someone going through this. She was in and out of hospital. We wouldn't hear from her for ages, and I'd be like, I'm waiting for that message to. She might be dead for all I know.
Yeah.
And then very recently, someone at work got it, and that's when my team member turned around and said, does anyone know someone who's had COVID? Because the only person he knew personally was that manager. He didn't know a single other person who had COVID. And I was just like, by then I think, Emily, you'd been positive. And I was just like, rattling off names. I know lots of people personally. I know people who have had severe complications. I know people who've been, we're not entirely sure if they did have it because it was entirely asymptomatic. There's a very good chance that my mum might have had it because she had a really bad cough right at the beginning of lockdown. And it kind of blew my mind that I was talking to someone who had no personal experience of COVID.
I think as well, because you don't know what symptoms you're going to get. You don't know how your body's going to react to it. Like I'm like, I don't really exercise as much as I should, and I eat a lot of junk food. But like, I'm like relatively healthy, and I could not move off the sofa for 2 weeks. Like, I just physically did not like. I slept on the sofa, I stayed on the sofa all day, and then I went back to sleep on the sofa. Like, I have never been that ill. But then I think when you get people who are like, oh, yeah, I just had like a cough for a day and then I was fine. People think, oh, well, it's not that big a deal. But it's like...
I think people don't get how bad it is. So obviously I've seen like COVID from asymptomatic, because we've had obviously people who have been tested because they've been doing trials in hospitals and stuff, because if anyone's going to get it, it's going to be the medical staff who's faced with it every day. And then I've also had people that I've obviously seen patients who have been much younger than people think they would be, requiring oxygen, and some of them look really, really comfortable. They'll come in with the ambulance crew and you'll be sat there going, you don't need to be here. You really don't need to be here. Why have they got you on that oxygen? You take their oxygen off to check what it was. And you're like, put that back on now. Because they look so comfortable, because they don't realise they're not breathing enough and they're not getting enough oxygen. And then some people are literally gasping for air. It's very nice, because occasionally we spy on patients that we've had. We probably shouldn't. But it's very nice to see when they're going home, because it's like, actually, we've done that. We've fixed that person, and they're going home again. And I think it's been very, very hard for lots of us, especially with all the COVID deniers and anti-maskers and all of that rubbish. It's been very disheartening and hard for people who work within that sector, because it does just break your heart of, I've seen people dying, if not die, from this. And people are telling me it's not real. Just for anyone who's a COVID denier out there, they're probably not listening to this episode, but whatever. How would you get 1.5 million NHS workers to agree to this hoax? If you could explain that to me,
because Bill Gates is controlling you.
Bill Gates, mate. Bill Gates. Yes.
We can barely organise a piss up in a brewery with my department, let alone, the whole of the NHS. I think if Bill Gates and Boris Johnson have achieved that they need to go off and do better things, because we can barely agree between ourselves.
Honestly, if people think they're like also interesting enough for the government to track them and actually care what they're doing, then I've got a lot of news for them.
I mean,
or I've got better news.
I thought you said I've got a lot of nudes for them. Like,
oh
what?
No, absolutely not.
I'm so uninteresting. Nobody wants to track me.
Literally.
Also, your phone works better as a tracker. Your phone works better as a tracker than anything we could inject into you.
Also, all all those like Facebook quizzes that you've agreed to give your
God.
information to without reading are probably doing more damage on your phone.
But I mean,
Probably.
the thing is, I do feel sorry for these sort of people with the anti-maskers and the COVID deniers, because I'm going to give them all the benefit of the doubt and assume that they are so overwhelmed they don't know how to cope. And so their way of coping is to just pretend it's not happening and to try and force everyone else to pretend it's not happening. Unfortunately, it is happening, and you need better coping mechanisms. But
just to put it back to a bit more light-hearted topics, I feel like we're circling on the COVID is bad front, and have been for a while. One good thing to come out of the last 12 months. I know I hate when people say that. It's like, oh, focus on the positives. I'm sorry, I'm becoming what I hate.
I think in this situation we should focus on the positives, because not all bad things happened in 2020. Not all bad things will happen in 2021. Yeah, it's going to be crap for a while, but there will be good things amongst the what's happening.
So what's a good thing that's come out of everyone's last year?
My cat!
Oh yeah.
Not your house or, your cat.
Yeah. The house facilitated getting the cat. This was so much stress, this flat. It's a good thing I have it now, but it was just so much stress getting here. But that was going to happen with or without COVID, the stress of getting here.
I was quite lucky in that the second lockdown coincided with starting therapy. So that's a good thing to come out of this. I've finally done that, which I will talk about in further detail in probably another episode. Also, my untimely divorce led to me moving home, which ironically has led to me saving a lot of money. So that's a good thing.
That's a very good
old thing. And I can't go out, so the government said I can't drink out with my friends. So I had to save money.
For when we can go have a giant party by ourselves.
You're not going to see me for like a week. I'm booking an Airbnb in central London. Do not expect me back.
As I said, the second we all get vaccinated, we're having a Goths get vaccinated party.
Yeah. I think for me, like, the most positive thing has just been learning more about myself. Like, especially like moving and like being by myself and having spent time by myself. I think having to actually look at my life and be like, okay, what things do I enjoy doing? What things do I need to work on? And like when you live by yourself, you can't rely on other people to do things for you.
Yeah.
So you have to get into a routine of being like, okay, I have to get up every day. I have to empty the dishwasher and put my laundry on because no one else is going to do it. And just learning more about myself and like the things that motivate me and what I want to do. And I think had I not been like stuck at home, I wouldn't have done that.
I think, for me, it's actually very similar. So the beginning, before even anyone had heard of COVID, the beginning of the year was very, very weird for me. I was a part-time carer for my aunt who passed away literally last thing 2019. So I spent the first month dealing with that, trying to sort that out. That's when I did have a relationship breakdown with a few people actually. Because of that, I had a very sort of mortality moment, which meant that I was very much like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever it is I want to do, what makes me happy. I want to live my life. And then COVID hit. And we all went into lockdown, and then I'm like...
It's like, no living of life for you.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, so we'll take it back a step. And but I also, it's the same thing. I started going through therapy. I've done a whole bunch of work on that, on myself. And it's part of the reason I started doing a lot more content creation stuff, is because I'm like, I've always wanted to do it. I'm just going to take the leap and do it, because I could get COVID tomorrow and drop dead. Anything could happen. And this is for me, it's been a lot about making sure that I'm living life in a way that makes me happy, that it's not it's just me trying to remove the toxicity from my life, the things that really made me sad, made me upset, made me stressed, and I'm trying to either figure out how to spin it or just remove it completely. Because obviously there's some things I can't remove, like the fact that I have to pay bills every day. That's a very toxic situation. I don't want to have to do that. But
move back home with your parents. and then I do what I did and just move back in with family. I don't pay for anything. I'm back where I started at like 18 years old.
Yeah, it's like I don't really want to have to do the laundry, but every time I don't do the laundry, it gets worse. So I'm now trying to work on the fact that, you know, if I do my housework a little bit every day, maybe the stress won't be there of the fact that my flat is not looking like it should, and, you know, carry on with life. So
yeah,
try and work on that.
Lockdown did force me to have to go, I can't just convince my friends who come over to do my dishes for me. I have to do this myself now.
That's never worked on me.
No, I know it won't work on you. I know you well enough.
So invite me around, Crystal. I'll get bored and just clean your house. Should we start with the plugs and outros?
Yes, I think we should. What do we want to plug?
Fantastic.
I mean, I'm going to plug my Twitch channel.
I mean, I think it would be really good to talk about the app you use, about the social usage. That sounds interesting.
So, to finish up this podcast, we thought we'd talk a little bit more about the app that I mentioned earlier called Sleep Cycle. Firstly, this is not sponsored by Sleep Cycle. I just really love this app and I've actually used it for years. So on the surface, Sleep Cycle is actually an alarm clock app, and it uses the microphone or the accelerometer in your phone to sort of guesstimate what sleep cycle you're in. It'll be light, deep, or REM. It then triggers the alarm during a time period that you have set, but only when your sleep is in its lightest. This means you are not terrified awake in the morning. So I do actually have the paid version of this, so I'm not sure if everything I use will be available for the free version of the app. But every night I set my alarm to wake me up within about a half-hour period, and then I use the sleep note functionality to add notes about my day, such as drank coffee in the AM, napped, saw someone in person, had work, had therapy, had chamomile tea. Once it's set up, I put my phone on charge on the bedside and attempt to go to sleep. When my alarm goes off and I turn off the alarm rather than snoozing it, I can choose out of 3 different options to explain how I feel like I've slept or my mood when I first wake up. And that will be bad, okay, or great. It then takes all of the data from my sleep cycle that night and the sleep notes, and it creates sleep quality data trends. I can then check my own sleep notes and I can see that generally, if I've napped that day, my sleep that night, the quality goes down by 29%. If I've had therapy that day, my sleep quality goes up by 7%. And if I've not had any socialization that day, if I've not spoken to anyone at all, my sleep quality goes down by 2%. So I can use this, along with any other mood tracking apps that I have, to see how, like, everyday things affect my sleeping patterns, and really it's invaluable for monitoring my own mental health and seeing how that affects my physical health as well. There's a ton more functionality that I use, but it's definitely the sleep notes and the alarm functionality that I get the most use out of.
Nice. It sounds like a really useful thing to keeping track of what's working and what's not. Not sponsored, not gifted, but if you'd like to sponsor us, we would not say no.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast.
And you can follow us on Instagram at Goths Do A Thing, on Twitter at Goths Do, and YouTube's Goths Do A Thing.
Well, that was our first ever podcast. Thank you to the Goths that joined us.
I hope everyone enjoyed our chats as much as we did.
And yeah, make sure to join us next time when we talk about what is your self-care routine and what doesn't work for you.
We look forward to you listening to us again soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe and rate below.
Thanks very much.